Boy, my boy, well, I'm a busy boba. I apologize if you've seen, like, what, is this my 4th news roundup thumbnail in a row? As always, there is much to discuss. So, ladies and gentlemen, once again, strap yourselves in. Maybe you might even see a future boba. But today, I want to start off with something that is causing a little bit of a stir. As per usual, I mean, you know, online, things are always going to be taken a certain way. But this one is an interesting conversation. And this is coming from a new report from the Hollywood Reporter saying, would you pay $400 million for this movie? And they talk about the budget of Superman, which we actually spoke about in one of my previous news roundup videos. But also, they add into the mix the marketing. And now, as a result of that big figure, people are, oh my god, it needs to gross like $1 billion to even earn any profit. Let's get into this. Then we have to go through a bunch of other little teaser clips. There's new promos for Superman coming out. There's probably another one coming out as I'm posting this video. The blessing and curse on this channel never ceases. So last year, documents filed by the Superman production team with the Ohio government seeking incentives listed the gross budget of the highly anticipated July film as $363.8 million. When the number was reported, director James Gunn, who also runs DC Studios, lambasted the article. How in the world would they think they know what our budget is? He wrote on social media. In recent days, DC suggested the budget is a net $225 million after incentives and tax breaks. Okay, that's what we covered previously. But continuing on here, the Hollywood Reporter kind of stir things up a bit more. I don't know if Gunn's replied by the time I'm posting this video, but either way, yet one longtime financer says that the $363 million figure isn't incorrect, and sources say DC and its parent could spend as much as $200 million on the global marketing campaign. Now, just before we get into that, they go on to say, according to a veteran studio source, Superman, which opens July 11th in North America, is exploding on social media. Based on such metrics, a domestic debt of $175 million or thereabouts is within the realm of possibility. It even has a shot at finishing with $1 billion plus globally. The thing is, when it comes to movie budgets, sure, the production budget might be found out, but usually when it comes to marketing, it's everyone's best guesses. Even as far as major trades like this. I mean, they have literally said themselves, I'll read it out again to you. And sources say that DC and its parent company could, not will, but could, spend as much as $200 million on the global marketing campaign. So if you did take 225 for the production budget, which we've been discussing recently, and the $200 million global marketing, that would be around $425 million in total, which everyone is now immediately, as a result of that, also saying, well, that means it's going to have to double that at least or something. So 800 plus to $1 billion to even break even, that's not really how it works. Everyone pretends that they're a box office kind of budget, marketing budget, production budget expert when it comes to this stuff. And I'm not pretending that I am, because the more you go down the rabbit hole, the more it really does get complicated, the more you try and understand these things. For example, you know, everyone tends to use the 2 to 2.5 times the budget to kind of figure out what they need to break even. But what is going on right now on, let's just say, social media, people are like, well, it's 2 to 2.5 times or more the production budget as well as the marketing. So they're conflating those two together, the 425, and thus making it like 850 plus million to even break even, when really it would be usually, from what I understand, do correct me if I'm wrong, normally it's the figure is like 2.5 times the production budget, so 225 million, and that's done because the 0.5 is usually, as well, just the overall number is to double that, or 2.5 times that 225 million, to leave room for what that marketing budget could be when it comes to blockbusters, because quite often, as I said a minute ago, the marketing budget isn't exactly known. But then there's other things as well. There really is other things that go into breaking even and what a movie makes. And, you know, when that comes to what the theaters even get a cut of, that's another thing. Like, don't forget that, let's just say it opens to 150 million opening weekend. Warner Brothers Discovery doesn't take all that 150 million. You know, some theater chains negotiate a certain price with the studio as to what they get versus what the studio gets to keep. Then there's like distribution fees. It goes on and on and on like that, which is why, again, that's why you have that general, very vague rule of thumb as to why there's like a 2.5 times the production budget to kind of try and take all these things into account, the marketing, the fees, and other bits and bobs, to try and basically say somewhere on some website out there that you may trust that, oh, Superman needs to roughly make this amount of money to break even, or have a good estimation of breaking even. But also, the movie itself isn't actually the only form of revenue, especially when it comes to big franchises like this. There's other things that mitigate things like marketing costs. So let's just say that the Hollywood Reporter and what they're hearing here from this source could be maybe true. What if it is around 200 million on top of the 225 million production budget, 200 million marketing? Well, you do have things like merchandising. Even as I went on to read here, the Hollywood Reporter points out themselves, box office isn't the only factor in judging a movie's performance. The value of the franchise library can increase exponentially with each installment. It can drive tens of millions of dollars in TV licensing rights, merchandising, special edition DVD sales, and streaming licensing revenue, all kinds of things like that and more. Like, this is how I think Black Adam, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it did get near the 400 or just past the $400 million mark because of streaming after the movie came out and stuff like that. Those sales get taken into account. So I just wanted to add that in there, because with Superman, there's obviously a lot of merch and things like that, which all go into the pot at the end of the day. So Superman, no, I don't think it needs to make 850 million to even slightly earn back some kind of profit and break even. Again, the 2.5 times the production budget is not exactly an exact science, which is why, you know, as we went over earlier, they use that 2.5 times figure to figure out roughly how much the marketing cost could be, which could be similar to production budgets in massive blockbuster movies like this. Fast X, for example, I think they had around a $340 million budget, and, you know, they did the whole 2.5 times thing, and it was like, okay, well, that would need an $850-ish million box office to kind of break even. So if you did that with Superman, it would be 225 million with the 2.5 times. My math would kind of take me out to be like, wait, 550 plus million. But again, I kind of self-cringe at this because I don't want to like put off myself. It's like, I know all about the nuance of the figuring out of box office and marketing and stuff. No, but that sounds about right to me. With, you know, the budget of this movie, 560 million to start to break even. You know, I think everyone expects Superman to make over 550 million. Again, my really bottom of the barrel expectation was 680 million to 750 million box office, worldwide box office, right? And this doesn't even include like merchandise sales and things like that. But everywhere else, not that I want to flex this, but everywhere seems to be saying that the movie's going to be doing way better, like long-term tracking than what I'm saying. I don't think there's too much to worry about. Don't listen to anyone who's kind of like, oh my God, it needs $1 billion to be successful. But let me know your thoughts on this if you've actually stayed this far in this first story of this video. Now, up next, we've got even more promo for Superman with a little kind of 30 plus 40-second video clips they're giving us. And this one is of Nathan Fillion getting ready to play the role of Guy Gardner. And you see all of these wigs that he was trying out when they were in that process. And man, I mean, I know there's a lot of people out there who'll be like, well, I don't like any of these. But again, what they actually came out with by the end of it, I've seen so many side-by-side comparisons, and Nathan Fillion, I still want to die on the hill of saying that he is, like, suit aside, I fully agree with that, suit aside, he is a very good comic book looking Guy Gardner. I just think if and as of when maybe one day we finally see him in perhaps a more comic accurate suit, people will be like, wow, okay, that is Guy Gardner right there. But one of the things that I really enjoyed about this is a teeny little clip from the movie where Lois is just kind of getting up in a huff and walking off, saying that haircut should be against your vows. And you have Guy Gardner being like, that what? That what should be what? I wonder what Guy did to, like, annoy Lois in this scene. Because, again, she's clearly kind of, like, raging out of the build. Maybe, you know what? I think, given what she's wearing here and knowing that she's wearing that jacket when Mr. Terrific is helping her, like, break into that Luthor Court Beach encampment, maybe she goes to Guy Gardner to get his help first, and he's like, you know, I can't, or like he said something about his vows, maybe his Green Lantern oath, and that's when she's like, well, that haircut should be against your vows. I mean, who knows, really? We could speculate about that forever, but I already love this Lois energy. I know that's almost premature to say, but based on a single line, but I'm liking what I see. Then we have another feature here, basically surrounding Superman Robot number 4, with Alan Tudyk voicing him. And we get all these kind of cool new shots of David Corenswet in number 4. But what is also just so cool about this is the behind-the-scenes production of Superman. I don't know, I love behind-the-scenes peeks like this. There's undoubtedly a massive special features plan. And I love, once again at the end, you know, right after Superman has that Saharan Prime dose of sunlight to crack all of his bones back into place and fix his torn organs, we have number 4 saying, you know, you must rest, Superman. And he's like, no can do, 4. I gotta get back to the fray. The way he's loosely carrying himself there, but with the sense of duty at the same time. Oh, man, like, it's just a little nugget of David Corenswet as Superman. It's weird because we've seen quite a bit of him, I guess, across trailers, but not a whole bunch of audio of, like, a one line like that. We've really still only heard Krypto take me home, or technically Clark talking to Lois. I guess he answered as Superman. I think what I want to know is why number 4 is the most significant one to Superman. At least I'm assuming. We're going to have to wait and see. But I love this. And again, by the time I'm uploading this video, maybe there's been another couple of these. Now, what did I tell you? Future Boba here. We have brand new TV spots coming out for Superman with brand new footage. Not just like recycled footage, but decent footage. Now, I do want to say that I will probably be covering these in a whole separate video when we get much higher quality versions of them. Right now, the versions of these that are going around are like recorded on phones, although shout out to Jordan Jones for providing me a really good version, I believe, that played during the NBA Finals. And there's a few variations of this. So initially here, we have some recycled footage at the beginning, Superman saving the day, but then we actually get to see Lex saying, what you're looking at is the most powerful being on the planet, and we get, while he's saying that and seething as they're monitoring Superman, so a lot of us were right in our theories that Lex has got a whole bunch of people there kind of monitoring Superman, where you can kind of see that little Zeta tube in the background, so it's interesting to note that that little kind of Zeta beam kind of tubey thing that takes Lois and Mr. Terrific to that quantum unfolding little pocket place is in Luthor's office, like, building area that you're probably seeing on screen right now. But either way, we get more footage of Superman as he's saying that, literally clinging onto the side of this building. Now, I don't know if that's linked to the footage we got right before that of, my God, those buildings falling down in Metropolis, that looks like a whole bunch. I mean, I know we saw these buildings falling from a different angle, but when you see it from this angle, it's like, damn. Now, I don't know if Superman is, you know, that's a building falling and he's trying to keep it up, but we have that lady in the car there, so I don't know if a part of a bridge is collapsing, but either way, new footage, and it is awesome to see. Also, in the music that I'm obviously not playing right now, but if you listen to it yourself when you find this clip, there's even more classical Superman theme in there, which I suspect is as a result of David Fleming being brought on as an additional composer to John Murphy's mashup, if you will, of the Williams theme. So you've actually got even more of it in there. Not just a da, 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 da. Now it's actually ba, 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 the whole shebang. Now, some of the more significant footage out of this is we see Superman saying, gotta get back to the fray, like that clip we went over already. But then you get that really wide shot in the Metropolis Meteor Stadium, the battle between Superman, Ultraman, and the Engineer. And you have Superman like charging up his punch as he kind of flies into Ultraman, and Ultraman rugby tackles him. So we get a little bit of a wider shot here. Not too much detail again, but it is still cool to see another perspective of this battle. In some of the other TV spots as well that are coming out, we actually see Clark kind of flip him up in WWE, slam him down. So this fight's going to be pretty insane. Obviously, I'm looking forward to seeing this footage in even better quality, because some of the other footage that I might not be showing shows Clark dealing with Krypto in the fortress as he's trying to, bite at his boots. We see Clark just kind of elegantly flying out of the way of the kaiju's flame. We get some more cat grunts. So all I'm going to say is, if you're watching this right now and more stuff is coming out in clearer quality, it's because I recorded this hours ago. I will be covering more crazy releases or whatever is brand new in my next video. Speaking of, we have James Gunn releasing posters left, right, and center. I know I already covered a couple of these in my previous video. Overall, as you can see, like, the marketing is bleeding more and more, and it's like the more the dam opens, as per with a dam here, that the marketing is bursting through. And this is only going to compound more and more and more and more and more and more the closer we get to the release. Now, speaking of the closer we get to the release, we've now had the runtime for Superman confirmed from James Gunn himself, and it is 2 hours and 9 minutes. And I feel like I called it, because I did say that after Gunn debunked the 2 hours, 2 minutes thing, I said that I suspect that those test screening reports were still true in the sense that quite a bit of screen time had still been trimmed off, which is an unusual thing when you're going through that perfection process. But I was saying that doesn't mean, just because it's not 2 hours, 2 minutes, that doesn't mean that it's still like 2 hours 20 something, 2 hours 30. I suspected that it was like maybe 2 hours 8 minutes, 2 hours 12 minutes. And here we have it at 2 hours 9 minutes. Now, what's important to remember here is that that is inclusive of the credits and post-credits in that runtime, meaning that, for example, the Batman, I believe, is 2 hours and 46 minutes if you take off the credits. So this Superman movie is 2 hours 9 minutes with the credits, so I assume maybe opening credits and post credits. That doesn't mean post credit scene. It's just like, well, that could mean that, but in general, post credits overall. So it's actually the actual run time of like footage you're going to see, the narrative, the story, is going to be much less than 2 hours and 9 minutes. So if you think about it, I know they're not the same movie, but the Batman going from 2 hours 46, 47 minutes to 2 hours 55 minutes with credits is like 8 minutes difference. Let's just say that the Superman credits are also 8 minutes-ish. You took 8 minutes off of 2 hours 9 minutes. That would take you to that rumored report of it being 2 hours, and well, it's 2 hours 1 minute, but the rumor was 2 hours 2 minutes. So maybe they meant without the credits. I don't know, not really important, but the movie's roughly 2 hours if you don't count the credits. Now, in other news, we've had Michael Rosenbaum confirming that he voiced a few lines in Superman. He said, James asked me to do something fun, so I have a couple of lines that I voiced. Now, he could really, I want to say my knee-jerk reaction is that with the amount of bloody fortress robots there are, we have Michael Rooker bloody voicing one of them. Surely Michael Rosenbaum is going to be one of them. But at the same time, we have like people in cells in Luthor's quantum unfolding chamber pocket bloody universe. Who knows? There could be an alien that he voices in one of those cells. We'll have to wait and see, but hey, man, I hope there's some kind of little Smallville Easter egg there as well. Now, before we get into some other news, there is even more Superman stuff. I've even had you guys tag me on social media saying, Boba, you're going to be so busy. I know. It's just constant, like, little tidbit to large bit that I can give a take on. So we've had the prequel novel already released for Superman. We've had the Superman Friends and Foes children book. Now, I've said that no matter what, you need to take these things as loose canon because they say inspired by the movie. And my rule of thumb with that is James Gunn didn't write this himself. I'm sure he still could have approved it, and they would have adhered to very strict bullet points about what could be mentioned and what couldn't. But, like, do you see what I mean? I don't think you should take everything that comes out of these like this prequel novel or other little details from other books as literal 1000% canon as to what happened in the past. Because this is where we're getting into a couple of things that I wanted to break down, some of the biggest things that people have pointed out. Now, let me know down in the comments, maybe get this video to 2,000 likes if you're still watching right now. If you want a dedicated prequel novel breakdown, we can do that. But one of the biggest things to come out of it is that the prequel novel for Superman has confirmed that Superman has apparently already faced Lex Luthor's Metallo. And it says, the cyborg turned back, staring at Lois. The eye on the robot's side of its face glowed red. I am Metallo, it announced in a voice distorted by electronic amplification. She'd been like, I am Metallo. I don't know. City Hall is mine, the mayor and the others have gone, so Metropolis is mine too. But this is in combination with the book that breaks down the characters, something that I would say is more accurate than the prequel novel because it's more of like a fact book about each character kind of thing. Not giving away too much, don't worry, just more generalized things. But one of them correlates, I suppose, to this prequel book because when describing Luthor, it says, Lex Luthor is the head of Metropolis's powerful tech company, Luthor Corp. He runs a tight ship, but while most of his underlings don't always respect him, they know not to mess with Luthor's diabolical plans, one of which includes inserting a dead assassin's brain into the metal body of a weaponized robot, which sounds an awful lot like Metallo. Luthor's supervillain antics were largely undisturbed until a certain Superman came to town. Now, some people were saying that this is going to be Ultraman in the movie. Obviously, I can't debunk that, but I don't think Metallo is under that black suit. Hey, I could be wrong, but I still think that is the typical theories that we've been talking about here. And yeah, maybe Metallo is a part of Clark's past in some way, shape, or form. Again, there's other tidbits out there. Let me know if you want me to break that stuff down. Try and leave a like on this video to help show your support, and let me know that you really want to see that in a bonus video. Now, a couple of little updates, one pretty significant, but starting off first here with James Gunn is saying that our last visual effects shot has been finished and dropped into Superman. We are now 100% done. Thanks to all my collaborators, it's been a joy, and for the rest of you, I can't wait for you to see the movie July 11th. Well, what comes out around the same time, or what do we hear news of? Coming from DC Film News, a New York judge on Wednesday denied the Schuster Estate's bid to block the international release of Superman. So don't worry, Superman is still releasing everywhere, just in case you were a bit concerned about that, because it popped up again, but it's been shut down again. As I said, a little bit of a case of whack-a-mole. I mean, I doubt it will pop up again, but you never know. Now, in other news, with Clayface here, we have kind of a bit of an update with Rob Hardy is apparently the cinematographer for Clayface, and you may have seen his work before, and you will see his work in the future in the DCU. That's if, I guess, you go and see this movie, because he was the cinematographer for Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, the Civil War, Annihilation. He did Mission Impossible Fallout. So yeah, that's a good grab in my books. Now, going over to the Marvel side of things, Fantastic Four has done apparently very well recently, according to Fandango, saying, isn't this fantastic? Marvel's The Fantastic Four First Step sold more tickets in its first day than any other film this year. Which is nuts. Like, that is including like Mission Impossible, Final Reckoning. You know, Lilo and Stitch is going to be like big with lots of younger audiences. Like Fantastic Four, like this is maybe expected for a lot of fans, but then again, you know, Marvel really needs this win because it's been going through its own issues. Like with Thunderbolts recently, just to mention it, it's on track to end its theatrical run by earning around $380 to $390 million globally, which is lower than the Eternals, lower than, you know, and they say Black Adam here, but that reminds me, it reminds me of the final, like, bunch of DCEU movies where they all struggle to make past 400 mil, and I will die on the hill in saying that Thunderbolts doesn't deserve it. It deserves more. But Fantastic Four has kind of got that energy I don't quite want to compare it to Deadpool and Wolverine, but we knew that movie was going to do well because, hey, look, it's Deadpool, it's Wolverine. Here, it's, hey, look, it's the Fantastic Four. Now, obviously, it still remains to be seen, just like, hey, look, it's Superman. Will they make a lot of money, as much money as we kind of really need them to make, to finally have the whole, oh, Marvel is back, oh, DC could be back kind of thing after all these years? Fantastic Four still, at the very least, has way more of a initial knee-jerk buzz than, oh, look, it's US Agent and Yelena and, Red Guardian. So even though I really enjoyed that movie, you can understand why a lot of people are buzzing for this. But I'm not just saying it's just because of the brand. I'm sure the trailers did well in terms of actually getting people's attention for the movie, the cast as well. But we've even had the recent trailer. But I didn't really want to do a whole video on this because I was thinking about it. But it was more or less what perhaps we're expecting with Superman, and how with the tickets going on sale, hey, here's like another trailer. Get your tickets now. And it's mostly recycled footage, but at the same time, it does have a few really cool shots in there. We have the, hey, he said it, is it clobbering time? But I did really like the, scene of the Fantastic Car, just then also showing more, which I've been wanting to see more of, the retro-futurism, just retro-futuristic world, the city that we're going to be exploring in this Fantastic Four movie. We get that little bit at the end with Johnny and Reed where, I'm seeing a lot of people go back on what they said about Joseph Quinn, be like, oh, I'm seeing actual Johnny Storm energy here. Well, it's like I've been saying this the whole time. We've also got a couple of new pictures as well. One interesting one is the close-up of Julia Garner as the Silver Surfer, where you do finally get a lot more detail at the CGI, because, admittedly, when you do first see in a trailer, it is a bit far away. You're kind of like, oh, I don't know about that. And I admit, I think if you turn me into Chrome with the most polished CGI, there's something a bit uncanny about it. But obviously, we didn't really see a close-up like this where you get a bit more detail. And I think she looks good there. It does look a lot more polished. There's people who are even MCU film news here putting a side-by-side of the Silver Surfer throughout the years. I know people are still like, I prefer the old one, but I don't think it looks bad, like some people make it out to be. We've also had a little comment from Kevin Feige talking with Empire Magazine, and he's addressed if that ship in the post-credit scene of Thunderbolts was the same one from the Fantastic Four First Steps trailer. And he says, well, their ship is Excelsior, the Excelsior, and there is a Fantastic Four ship entering the MCU, but I'm not sure they're the same ship. And they're not. I believe the one in the trailer, it has kind of the three kind of fins. The one in the post-credit scene of Thunderbolts has a little subtle difference, and I believe another one of those. So people are wondering, wild theories, oh, is Doom and Franklin on that ship going into the MCU? I don't really understand that one, because we know the Fantastic Four are coming into our universe, and I believe that scene was that, rather than it just being Doom. I think maybe the reality is that they had to create a different kind of ship, or there was already another ship created that they had to escape their own universe with to get into the MCU, and that's what really happens there. Now, I know there's been a lot of theories recently with Doctor Doom, and if he's appearing in the Fantastic Four, and we've had the director say to Empire Magazine, again here, Doctor Doom will not appear in the Fantastic Four First Steps, confirms Matt Shanklin there. So, a lot of people are just kind of like, yeah, Andrew Garfield totally isn't in Spider-Man No Way Home. That kind of vibe, because there were rumors that perhaps in the post-credit scene, there were, we didn't truly know the full extent of it. Okay, there's a post-credit scene with Doom. You get to see this, you get to see that. There were conflicting reports being like, oh, you see him in his armor. You don't necessarily see Robert Downey Jr. So that way they could just get a stunt double to just put the armor on, and he just walks in the room. I don't actually fully disbelieve something like that happening, because that would just be quite easy to pull off. You don't have to get RDJ in to do that. I mean, after all, guys, what comes out after the Fantastic Four? Do we really think there's going to be nada with regards to a Doomsday? I think that there could be a little something there, and they're trying to hide something. So I would love to know any theories you have of that, despite the director saying Doctor Doom will not appear. Do you think that he will? But that is everything from me today, at least so far. I mean, I'm filming this as past Boba in advance quite a bit, so you may have seen a future Boba, I don't know. If you've got this far, I'd greatly appreciate a like. It really does help me out a lot. Maybe consider subscribing to the channel for more updates like this. But until next time, ladies and gentlemen, just thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you all in the next video. Goodbye.